Women of Reddit, where are horrible places for guys to ask for your number? My brother and my sister and I had to hire a moving company to haul some furniture and things from my dad's house shortly after he passed away. One of the moving guys kept trying to get my number. He was aware that I am married. He was aware that my dad just died. He even asked my siblings for my number. It made the whole day even more awkward. Not the time or the place, bruh. I'm way too late to this, but my friend had to have someone escorted out of Auschwitz because he cornered her in a gas chamber to tell her she was pretty and to ask her number after being told twice not to talk to or approach her. Had a guy follow me home and ask for my number in my driveway. I once had a guy who interviewed me text my number from my job application to ask me to sushi. Don't do that. A supervisor asked once right after he gave me a reprimand. One time I went to the bank branch to get some foreign cash. I work in the corporate office for the same bank, and the teller asked me for my number. I declined. Then when I got back to my desk, he had sent me an email because he was able to look up my work email through my debit card. Not cool. Once some random guy rode the elevator with me, got off on the same floor, and then pretended to walk to a different apartment before cornering me and asking for my number when I was unlocking my door. Maybe, don't do that. When you're 14 years old waiting for your therapist at the Child's Advocacy Center. This man was like 40 something, staring at me, complimenting my appearance and then asked my number. I said no and he kept pestering and I said I was 14. He still wanted my number. Like dude, what the frick? Had a guy grope me in a crowded bar. When I pushed him away he dumped his drink on my head. The bouncer that kicked him out tried to tell me about a cousin of his, who's a software engineer that needed to get married so he could legally stay in the country, heavily suggesting it be me. A friend of mine gave him her number so he'd back off of me while I was still covered in drink and traumatized, then immediately blocked him once our ride picked us up. Real story. 10 years ago I would do the mandate risk assessment for people trying to get their license back after a DUI. A high risk was rare and was the only rating where license would not be reinstated. Other levels would have conditions, but license back. I was about 30 and working in a rural community. Guy comes in for an assessment and he had problems with every substance, but denied that anything was problematic. Refused recommendations. Then called me a aunt when I explained that I was submitting a high risk. He finally leaves my office. 5 minutes later, knock on the door. It's him. He asks, you single? Want to go on a date? I was so stunned that I didn't say a word. I just closed my office door. Never seen him since, but he's been in the news a few times for crimes over the years. The gym is tricky, especially if you can feel them lurking the whole time and then in the middle of some exercise they decide to come up to you. Wait until the end or something. A taxi. Please do not drive like a maniac and then proceed to lock the doors at my destination and ask me out. Luckily it was in the middle of the day and he did unlock them, but funnily enough I never saw him at that taxi firm again after I submitted a complaint. Also had some guy follow me down several train carriages once trying to get my number. I had to sit down next to a stranger and beg them to pretend they knew me. Men. For the love of God, this shoot is creepy. Don't do it. When you're outside alone in the dark. Some guy asked me for a lighter and my number while I was quickly going to my car. I basically threw him a lighter and told him to keep it and ran back inside, LOL. While I'm at work trying to help him find flashable wipes. I was 16 and drove myself and a friend to a haunted house without adult supervision, feeling like a grown-up. Mid-haunted house. This guy in full costume comes up to me and says, "Can I have your number?" Not sure if he's serious. I say, wow, the scares are really real this year. He takes off his mask and pulls his phone out of his pocket and says, "No, for real." I realized I needed an adult in that situation and really haven't gone to a haunted house without my mum since. I'm 26. My ex had a guy ask for her number in an STD testing waiting room. I'm a lesbian. I was at work, and a woman came up to the counter and asked for my number. I don't know if you're familiar with how hard it is to even find other lesbians and bisexual women, especially in the wild, especially in a small town in the Bible Belt, especially ones who hit on you out of nowhere. Okay, it is hard to even find them on lesbian Tinder, because half the time the women are on there looking for besties and a quarter of the time women are looking for their boyfriend. So, needless to say, I was very surprised when a pretty woman asked me for my number out of nowhere. So I said, yes, and proceeded to start writing it down. Before I could finish, she said, "It's for my uncle. He's outside. He is shy." And then described her uncle. I knew him. He was a regular customer. I laughed it off, did not give her my number, and then she said, "Sorry, did you want mine instead?" I laughed again, didn't say anything, nor exchange numbers, and that was that. In the hallway of the emergency department when my then 3-year-old had just been admitted after being brought in for puking up massive amounts of blood. I was wearing a green Kermit the Frog shirt that was also covered in blood, because I carried my son in there and begged the first worker I saw to help me, because I didn't know what to do. I had to leave the room for a minute once the DR started working, because I was so relieved that they were with him that all of my emotions were able to come out, because my son was so scared that I had to keep it together for him and act like it was okay. I just needed a minute. Some guy walked up to me and said he loved Kermit and then asked if I had a boyfriend. So not exactly asking for my number, but if I hadn't screamed at him like a psycho he probably would have. I just said seriously, "Are you freaking kidding me?" And he walked away. Don't know why. I have been asked for my number in a church by a 60-year-old man as a 12-year-old, and I was legit wearing a My Little Pony t-shirt. I think the best approach is not asking for their number. Instead, give them yours. They'll text call if they're interested and they'll appreciate the fact that there was no pressure. It's way easier and less nerve-wracking too. I think it would simpler to ask what are acceptable places to ask for a woman's number. A long time ago, I learned not to do it around her husband. Had a few guys ask for my number during my shift at McDonald's. Don't ask for my number while I'm at work, especially not at McDonald's. This guy tried to give me his number while I was shopping for bras. Not horrible, but a bit strange. I'm married, but I really liked that he was just giving me his number rather than asking for mine. Less pressure. Guys should start doing that instead. The bus stop and laundromat. I had a homeless guy ask me for $1 and when I said sorry I have no cash, he said can I have your number, so I guess my answer is the most horrible place to ask for my number is anywhere that you beg for money first. At work, I have to ask everyone to confirm their number at drop-off so I can call when their pet is ready. The amount of men who make weird comments about me asking for their number is atrocious. Please stop. It's weird and makes me almost always ask one of my male co-workers to call you, instead of myself. There are so many, but for some reason lately a couple men have approached me while I'm picking up my dog's poop like hand in inside-out bag scooping up the poop. Please do not talk to me when I have a bag of warm dog shoot in my hand. Once a guy followed me into the bathroom to ask for it. The bar we were in kicked him out for going in there. Speaking as a guy who has heard lots of women in my life say this. At the gym. Side note. I think going up and asking for someone's number is weak etiquette. The approacher should give out their own number, so the approachee then has all the power and can go thanks and then throw it out later if they so wish. That way rejection doesn't happen then and there, and the approachee can rest easy that they won't get harassing texts from a stranger. Plus it makes more sense for the approacher to offer something rather than make a request. I'm not a woman, but a man. My best bud and I were out drinking. We were out cause he was going through some stuff. We are in a kinda downtown like area, kinda city like. We leave the bar and walk around a bit. You know, explore. We see this kinda cute goth looking girl sitting by a storefront smoking. I have the idea of having him hit it up with her. He seems hesitant, but walks up to her like a champ. I sit by the bench and start watching vids on my phone. Suddenly she starts yelling and a whole mess of other women come out. I run up to him to see if I could assess and calm the situation. Before I could say anything, a very large mammoth of a man comes out with a baseball bat. "Don't you ever bother her again," he says, as the other women scurry inside of the shop with goth chick. After we leave that sobering experience, he only told her, "Hey," and asked for a smoke. She was very nervous to be there, and he went for a handshake and noticed some bruises. He approached her to ask if she was okay. That is when the shoot hit the fan. Like 2 years pass and my other friend, she works as a social worker for kids or something. We tell her the crazy story. She asked where exactly it was. Turns out it was a house for battered women. Like an underground railroad for women and children. We were freaking idiots and we learned real quick. I'd rather you didn't ask for my number at all. Give me your number, and then I can decide whether I want to talk to you later. Much less pressure feeling of risk. I'm a guy, but I just scrolled the answers, because I half expected someone to say at a funeral. Guy here. Absolutely all places. Don't ask for numbers. Hand out your own right before exiting their space. No confrontation. No on the spot rejection. No risk for them. Just a simple "Hey, I'd love to talk more. Here is my number. Text me if you would like that too," and walk away. Late at night at a big train terminal. Just don't, it's creepy as hell. I just want to smoke my cigarette in peace and catch my train home.